Hi everyone and welcome to Traveling Misknits. My name is Pia and I am, as always, so very happy that you're joining me here today for a little chat about yarn and knitting. Again today I have a finished object. I'm on fire this year. She said mid-January, but you know, I'm a big fan of celebrating my wins before it's too late. I have, and this is probably not a surprise to anyone who's been watching the last couple of episodes, I have finished the little family sweater for my grandson, Lucas. I made a sweater for Lucas's older brother, John, back in October when I was here. And now I have finished a matching sweater for Lucas. And just like John's has a J on the shoulder, Lucas's has an L on his shoulder so that they can easily tell them apart. They're also quite different in sizes, but anyway. I'm not gonna talk a whole lot about this sweater because I have talked so much about it on the last 2 or 3 episodes. I am just gonna mention that I knitted in Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek in this olive colorway. I used needles size 5mm and I used the pattern for my family sweater. That pattern calls for a thinner yarn, a DK weight, and a needle size 4mm. So I had to do some adjustments based on the gauge I was getting with this yarn. I also omitted the Estonian braids and I added the stripes and the ribbings, and yeah, it turned out exactly how I hoped it would. So I am happy to have this set of matching sweaters for my little ones. And it is last minute, or kind of last minute. We are leaving on Saturday, which is going to be today by the time this video goes up. So yeah, so happy that I managed to finish the sweater before leaving. I did run out of yarn on this one. I was sure that I had 2 balls laying in my yarn collection over here. So I started knitting. I knit most of the body, almost down to the ribbing. Then I ran out and I thought, well, I'm gonna attach the second ball. There was no second ball. So I had to go out and get some more yarn. And I was a little concerned about dye lots because this yarn has been sitting here for, yeah, a couple of months. So the chances of me finding the exact same dye lot was slim, to say the least. And also, I didn't get the same dye lot. But seriously, you can't tell the difference. My main concern was here on the sleeves where I put stitches on hold and then started knitting with the new color. You cannot see it. My plan was that if there was a big difference between the dye lots, then I would go directly into the ribbing with the new color and just make the ribbing a little longer. And up here on the sleeves, I would make some stripes with the red and the orange, just to make sure that the 2 different olive colors weren't right next to each other. But there was no need for that. It worked out beautifully. Other than Lucas's sweater, I have of course been working on other stuff. I have been crocheting. I have been crocheting on my lovely moss stitch blanket. project that I cast on a whim, just because I was missing crocheting on a blanket after having so much fun with my granny stripe blanket throughout December. I was really missing this relaxed, calming, soothing experience of just working row after row in a simple pattern, not having to think much about anything. So yeah, I bought some Lion Brand Ferriswheel, this one in the colorway Morning Java, which is, these are my colors. I love these colors and I think they're working out beautifully. I am, because I like blankets to be kind of scrappy looking, I am doing a little thing to help it look more scrappy. On the first ball that I worked, I was pulling from the inside. The second ball, I then started pulling from the outside. So you can see that the stripes are kind of changing. I changed balls here where there's a very skinny stripe. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. I think if I had just gone all through the blanket, pulling from the inside and managing my colors as I was changing balls, it would have been just a little bit boring. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter at all. I am very, very satisfied with this. It is a pleasure to work on, and I am sure that I am gonna love the finished blanket. It is so soft and drapey, but still you don't have the big holes that you have with a granny stripe or a granny square blanket. The big holes that Mrs. Little Paws can get caught on, and that even my fingers and toes can get caught on from time to time. This is a much more dense fabric, but still very soft and drapey and absolutely wonderful. I did get 12 balls of this Ferris wheel, which should be enough to get me to the end of this blanket. If not, I'm just gonna pick up some more next time I come back here, which is gonna be in April. I'm just gonna pick up a few extra balls and not worry too much about dye lots. It's gonna be fine, I'm sure. I'm hoping. Most of my knitting time this week has actually been spent on a project that I don't know I'm gonna say a lot about it, because it is the old Vesty Thing that I made this summer. It's the one I'm wearing. Let me just try to crawl up here on the bed. Maybe you can. This one, I made it at the end of summer in some drops Lima and drops brushed alpaca silk. Very simple, oversized t-shirt slash vest slash sweater. I kind of followed a pattern, old drops pattern, but then again I did not, because I changed the stitch pattern, I changed the gauge, the stitch count, the yarn obviously, the shoulder construction. I also changed the neckline. There wasn't much left of the pattern that I thought I was following. I've been wearing this a lot over the winter. I use it as today over a shirt. I also use it over t-shirts, over dresses, and I often use it over jackets like blazers or a jean jacket or a leather jacket. It just adds a little bit extra warmth and some interest to my outfit. So I have been wearing this a lot, And in wearing it, I have noticed a few things that I wish I did differently. The sleeves, I wish I had put in some short rows on the sleeves to make them fit better. And I also kind of wish that I had worked it top down to give me an opportunity to try it on as I go and see which is the perfect length. Because I mean, this one, to me, the length on this one is perfect, but that was pure luck. So on this next one, I am trying to figure out how to make it better, make it perfect, make it more me. And the reason why I am not ready to talk a lot about it is because I am using a couple of new to me techniques. So I really want to see what happens, see that it will actually work before I talk too much about it. But yeah, a lot of knitting time has gone into this. I have knit the back. I am now working on the front. I have written the pattern. So if this sample turns out as I imagine it's going to turn out, then the pattern is actually, it has been edited. It's ready to go out into testing. So this one could probably, potentially be released relatively soon. I mean, it is kind of a winter, spring, fall thing. I don't think you'd get much use out of it during the summer. It's just too warm. This time I am working with a yarn that I am loving. I am working with the Merino from Garnspecialisten. I have been working with their yarns before. They are this Danish company that buy up excess yarn from the fashion industry in Italy and make it available for us at very, very good prices. So for this one, I am holding these two strands of merino together. One is the coffee colorway and one is the black. And I am holding these two with two strands of their mohair, which is a brushed mohair, a very, very fine thread of brushed mohair. This is not, this does not give the kind of floof that a silk mohair will give you. This is, and now I want to make sure I'm saying this right, it's 20% mohair, 50% acrylic, and 30% polyamide. So this is very different from the mohairs that we usually use, but to me it gives just the right amount of floof. Yeah. Let me just show you the fabric again, maybe up close. I know that the colors are probably, yeah, the colors are blowing out, but look at the texture, the subtle floof that you get, and the two colors playing together so, so beautifully. I love this fabric that I've created, and actually I am surprised at how little it annoys me working with 4 strands of yarn, because as I was casting on, I was like, this is going to drive me bonkers, 4 strands of yarn. But it is not nearly as painful as I thought it would be. I really like the merino here. It is an untreated merino, which means that it is it's a lot more rustic than the merinos that I have been used to. It's not super wash treated, so it doesn't have this slick surface that will sometimes play tricks on you. This is definitely a rustic yarn, but of course still a soft rustic yarn because it is merino after all. This is probably the closest that you get to a stable yarn at Garnspecialisten, because they buy up all these leftovers and excess yarns. You can't really count on them having a specific type of yarn at all times. But this one, every time I've visited their site, they have had this Italian merino, so this is probably the closest you get to a stable. But still, I will say, if you go to their site, and I highly recommend you do, because they have some really good yarns at some very nice prices. Plus you get to do a good thing. You save the world by buying yarn. I mean, that's something, isn't it? If you see a yarn in there or a specific colorway that you like, you should get it right away, and you should make sure that you get enough, because you never know if it's going to be there when you come back. This Vesty Thing does take up a lot of yarn. I mean, first of all, 4 strands, but also it is not brioche. I think maybe you call it fisherman's rib in English. It's the one where you knit 1 row, and then on the next row you knit in the stitch below and you purl, knit in the stitch below and purl. So you get a fabric that looks a lot like brioche, but on the other side it looks more like this. That does take a lot of yarn, of course it does. So I'm quite curious to see just how much I'm gonna end up needing for my Vesty Thing. The only other thing I have been working on this week is actually an old whip that was resting over here in my closet. It is in the bag that a wonderful friend and viewer of this podcast made for me. It is my Palazzo shawl. So the Palazzo shawl is originally, I'm just going to put a photo. It's originally worked in 3 colors of fingering weight yarn. I am working this one in 1 color of worsted weight yarn. This is the Wool of the Andes worsted. Let's see if there is a colorway name on this. There's not. Cobblestone Heather. I just had to look for it. The Cobblestone Heather colorway, which is beautiful. And I love this yarn. I've been talking about this before. I really love the Wool of the Andes. But yeah, what I am doing is I'm, as I said, working the whole thing in 1 color. These sections where on the pattern it is a little bit of color work in 2 of the colors, I'm just doing knits and purls to mimic the color work. I finished the lace portion just because I really wanted to do some lace. I don't know, I found this in my closet and I was like, oh, lace. So I went ahead and finished the color work portion. From now on, it is just more or less a plain stockinette stitch, knit back and forth, just with a few of these borders in between. So I am thinking maybe this should be my plain knitting, or I should bring my crochet blanket, or both. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? But then again, it's nice to have a backup project just in case something happens. I can't really think about what would happen that would stop me, but yeah, I'll figure it out. But this would be perfect plain knitting for sure. Just going back and forth and stockinette stitch in a yarn that I love. I would probably change the needles because I know that knitting needles flying domestic in the US are okay, but I have heard horror stories of people having their needles taken in security when they are flying in Europe. These are on my Chaogu, and I have Chaogu bamboo needles that I could just put on here. And if I'm going to do that, I should probably do it right now as I am changing from the lace and into the stockinette, because it can change your gauge when you are changing needles. So just to avoid having like an obvious change in gauge in the middle of a stockinette stitch section, I would rather do it right as I'm changing out of the lace, and then I'm sure I can block my way out of any problems should they arise. So yeah, not a whole lot. I am still enjoying focusing on a few projects and trying very, very hard not to overwhelm myself. I'm doing pretty well for now. I am sure that at some point startitis will take over. I will cast on all the things enjoyed immensely and then start to feel overwhelmed. In which case I will have to go through my whips and figure out which one to finish, which ones to frog. I am really enjoying right now all the videos that are coming out where people show everything that they knit in 2023. I'm not going to be making a video like that because it's a lot of work and my knits are spread over at least 2 continents. I have knits over here, I have some in Denmark, I have some in Italy. Just getting them all together is gonna be such a chore. And also last year was a little bit special in that I did a whole lot of behind the scenes knitting, which I cannot show that yet. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna do a video like that. I'm just gonna enjoy it when everyone else is doing it. I get so much inspiration from those videos. So yeah, that's a source of joy and inspiration for me. As I said, we are gonna leave Texas on Saturday. We're going back to Denmark. Peter's only gonna stay in Denmark for a couple of days, but I get to stay a little longer, hang out with my youngest son, his kids, with my friends, the rest of the family. I really hope some of the snow sticks. There's a lot of snow right now on the farm where we live. I hope it doesn't melt until we arrive. It does seem like the weather is going to change right about the time that we arrive. So just a little bit of snow would be wonderful. We have had kind of snow over here. Like, it's been cold. Don't get me wrong. It's been super cold, like freezing cold. But the snow was only like a light dusting, and of course everything closed down. But still, it wasn't snow enough. I hope to get some snow when I come back. On a positive note, if you have been following this podcast for a while, you have perhaps heard me say that Texas hates me. And I've been like, not fair. I really like Texas. How can it hate me so much? I have for the past 2 years been sick every time I've been here. Like, not almost every time, every single time. And I've been sick for extended periods. I mean, I think my record was 21 days of fever in a row. It's been kind of hard. In the beginning, I was like, that's because the kids go to school, they bring back all kinds of yucky stuff that my body doesn't know what to do with. But I also got sick when they were not in school. If they were having a break of some sorts, I would still get sick. Then I thought, aircon is the bad guy in this. But you know, I'd get sick within the first 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours of being here, that's kind of fast, even for aircon. Plus, my kids don't really use a lot of aircon in their house. They just don't do that. Of course, in the midst of summer, they need to do a little bit, but they never keep it freezing cold inside. Then someone suggested, it's going to be the plane ride coming over here, which would make sense. You're a lot of people sitting close together, breathing the same air. But I can fly everywhere else in the world without getting sick. And I was, and I just landed on Texas hates me. But now the kids have moved. When they were moving out of the house that they rented, we had to pick up a couple of the floorboards because there had been some water damage. And we saw that the entire house was full of mold. Like, there was mold everywhere. So now we know what made me sick. Which is, I mean, the kids also had a lot of problems when they were living there. Breathing problems, skin problems. It will be very interesting to see if we are over all of that now that they moved out of Nasty House, as we refer to it. I will let you go for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving me a thumbs up, maybe leaving me a comment. Those things really help me grow my channel. So, hey, I forgot something. I cannot let you go without letting you know that I have set the date for the Spring Knitathon. It is going to be April 6, going into April 7, obviously. If you have done the Knitathon before, I hope you enjoyed it so much that you're gonna do it again. If you haven't, you should perhaps just save the date, just in case that you decide you wanna try 24 hours and fun knitting and friendship. I do have some videos about the Knitathon here on my channel. I am gonna link those in the description box right below this video, where I'm also gonna link everything that I have been talking about in this episode. I always forget to say that, but I do hope that you're able to find your way through the description even without me helping you. But April 6th, the Spring Knitathon. If you have a podcast and you want to contribute to the entertainment throughout these 24 hours, please let me know. My email address is in the description box below. Send me an email. Let me know if you have like a favorite time of these 24 hours to podcast. I cannot promise that everyone will get their favorite spot, but I will do my very, very best. It is kind of a puzzle, but I think I managed it the other times to get something, a time slot that they were able to enjoy. So now I am gonna let you go. Again, be safe, be happy, and keep knitting.